Laughter and melodies filled the air, creating the picture-perfect scene for what was meant to be the happiest day of my life. My name is Juniper, and as I stood there in my stunning white gown, I felt like a queen, as if I were living in a dream. Everything seemed flawless until, in an instant, it all shattered. "Juniper, dear, could you come here for a moment?" My mother-in-law's voice cut through the joyful atmosphere like a knife, sharp and more commanding than a request. I exchanged a quick smile with my friend and excused myself, sensing something was off in the way my mother-in-law stood, rigid and tense. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "What is it?" I asked politely, forcing calmness into my voice even as her posture screamed trouble. Her gaze locked onto mine, her words as cold as ice. "It's the way you look at me, Juniper," she said, her tone dripping with accusation. "I know contempt when I see it, and you wear it on your face as plain as day. I'm your husband's mother. I deserve respect, not this silent disdain." I blinked, caught off guard by her sudden confrontation. My heart raced as my thoughts scrambled to make sense of her accusation. "Ember, I think you're mistaken. I respect you deeply," I replied, bewildered and unsure of the hostility that had sprung up so unexpectedly. She scoffed, her expression hardening. "Respect? Ha! I've seen the way you roll your eyes when I speak. I hear those sighs, Juniper. You act like I'm invisible. You've even managed to turn my son against me." Her voice rose, drawing the attention of nearby guests who began glancing our way. The weight of their stares was impossible to ignore. I struggled to maintain my composure, my nerves fraying. Just as I opened my mouth to respond, Silas, my new husband, appeared beside us, concern etched on his face. "Mom, what's going on?" he asked, looking from me to his mother, confusion clouding his expression. Ember didn't miss a beat, clutching Silas's arm dramatically. "Your wife, Silas. She's been treating me with nothing but disrespect, and today of all days, she's been the worst." Her voice cracked with emotion, tears welling in her eyes. Silas turned to me, disbelief flickering across his face. "Juniper, is this true?" His voice was cautious, as if he couldn't fully grasp what was unfolding. "No, it's not true," I said firmly, striving to keep my tone steady despite the whirlwind inside me. "I've done nothing to disrespect her. She's making this up." Ember tightened her grip on Silas's arm, her tears now flowing freely. "I'm your mother, Silas. Do you think I would lie to you?" she cried, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and heartbreak. Silas's expression shifted, concern morphing into something darker, something I had never seen before. In a swift, shocking movement, he reached down, removed his shoe, and struck me on the head with it. The sound echoed through the stunned silence of the room, freezing me in place. My hand flew instinctively to my scalp, which now throbbed from the impact. Gasps rippled through the crowd, but no one moved. I stood there, motionless, a storm of emotions crashing within me, shock, hurt, betrayal, and anger swirling all at once. For a moment, I was at a loss for words. "How could you?" I whispered, the question not just for Silas but for the universe itself, a plea for understanding. How had things spiraled so far out of control? Realizing what he had done, Silas stammered, "Juniper, I didn't mean it. I was just—" I cut him off, my voice steady despite the tears welling in my eyes. "No, Silas, you've shown me exactly who you are." The sting from his blow paled in comparison to the heartbreak of knowing that the man I had married was capable of such cruelty. Turning away from him and his mother, I faced the guests, many still staring in stunned silence. "I'm sorry you had to witness this," I said, holding my head high despite the chaos swirling within me. "Please enjoy the celebration. I just need a moment alone." Without waiting for anyone to respond, I walked away, my heart heavy with the weight of what had just happened. The music had stopped, and the joyful atmosphere that once filled the room had evaporated, leaving only awkward silence and hushed whispers in its wake. I stepped outside, craving a moment away from the noise and chaos. The cool air hit my skin, grounding me even as my thoughts raced uncontrollably. How had everything gone so wrong? Just moments earlier, I had felt happiness, believing I was beginning a beautiful new chapter in my life. Now, it seemed that chapter had ended before it even began. I found a quiet corner away from prying eyes, trying to collect my thoughts. Ember's accusations, Silas's betrayal, and the judgmental stares from the guests. It all felt like too much to handle at once. I couldn't shake the question lingering in my mind. Could I really stay in this marriage after what had just happened? Could I trust Silas again? Tears stunned my eyes, but I fought them back. Crying wasn't going to solve anything, and I refused to let this moment break me. I needed time to think, to process, and most importantly, to decide how I wanted to move forward. One thing was clear: this was a turning point. My perfect day, the dream I had held onto, was gone, replaced by something darker and far more difficult to face. Deep down, I knew I couldn't return to how things were. I had to figure out my next step, even if that meant doing it alone. As I made my way back toward the bridal suite, I could hear whispers trailing behind me, swirling like an unwanted shadow. But I refused to let them weigh me down. I kept my head held high, knowing this wasn't the end for me. No, it was the beginning of something new. Once I reached the privacy of the suite, I allowed the emotions I had been holding back to surface. The tears came, but they weren't just tears of pain. They were also tears of resolve. I wouldn't let this moment define me. I wasn't going to be a victim. Instead, I would rise above it. A plan began to take shape in my mind, clear and unshakable. I wasn't going to let Silas and his mother get away with what they had done. The first step was to gather evidence, proof of how they had treated me, proof that no one could deny. I knew exactly who to call: Roman, a private investigator with a reputation for being both discreet and relentless. He was just the person I needed. With him on my side, I would uncover the truth, no matter how deeply it was buried. I reached out to Roman without hesitation, confident he was the only one capable of helping me with such a delicate situation. His reputation for thoroughness made him the perfect choice. "Roman, I need your help," I told him, trying to keep my voice steady. "My husband, Silas, and his mother haven't exactly been kind to me, and I need proof of their behavior." He listened carefully, his voice calm and professional as always. "What kind of evidence are we looking for?" he asked, showing no hint of surprise. "Anything that shows a pattern," I replied, feeling a surge of determination. I explained that the abuse could take many forms: emotional, financial, or even legal. Anything that could help prove what they had been doing. "Understood," he replied without hesitation. "I'll start with surveillance and a background check. I'll dig into their history, their finances, everything. You'll get the evidence you need." With Roman on my side, I felt a spark of control ignite within me. For the first time in days, I had a plan. From that moment on, I began documenting every interaction I had with Silas and his mother, every conversation, every phone call. I needed to gather all the evidence I could. I wasn't leaving anything to chance. In the midst of the storm, my best friend Lilia became my lifeline. She had been there for me through thick and thin, her unwavering support giving me the strength to keep going. "Lilia, I don't know how I'd get through this without you," I admitted one day, feeling overwhelmed by the weight of it all. She placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "You're not alone, Juniper. I'm here no matter what, so tell me your plans." I explained everything to her, from gathering evidence with Roman to my desire to expose Silas and his mother for who they truly were. Lilia's expression darkened with concern. "Juniper, be careful," she warned. "They're not going to see this coming, and when they do, they'll be furious." "I know," I said with a determined nod, "but I can't let them get away with this." Over the next few weeks, the pieces of the puzzle started to fall into place. The phone recordings revealed how Silas's tone often shifted from cold to demeaning, his words dripping with subtle threats. Meanwhile, Roman uncovered alarming financial documents that showed just how much control Ember had over Silas's assets. Some transactions seemed shady, hinting at possible fraud lurking between the lines. One evening, Lilia and I sat together, combing through the growing pile of evidence. As we flipped through bank statements and emails, something jumped out at me. "Lilia, look at this," I whispered, pointing to a series of suspicious transfers. "They're moving large sums of money. Where is it all going?" Lilia leaned closer, scanning the emails. "It sounds like they're planning something, but we don't know what yet. We need to connect the dots." I muttered to myself, feeling the weight of everything slowly closing in. This wasn't just about emotional abuse anymore. There was a much larger scheme unfolding beneath the surface. Lilia's eyes widened. "Juniper, this is bigger than we thought," she whispered, her voice laced with both excitement and fear. The more I uncovered, the clearer it became that Silas and his mother were hiding something serious, something illegal. They weren't just toxic, they were entangled in a web of lies and manipulation that surpassed anything I had imagined. With each passing day, my determination grew stronger. I wasn't merely gathering evidence for myself. I was exposing a story of betrayal, deceit, and crime. Silas and his mother had spent years weaving this elaborate web, but now I had the power to unravel it. One day, as I reviewed the documents again, the truth struck me like a bolt of lightning. "Lilia, I think they're embezzling funds from Silas's company," I whispered, my heart racing. "These documents are incriminating." Lilia's expression turned serious. "Juniper, this is dangerous," she cautioned quietly. "You need to be careful. They're not going to take kindly to being exposed." "I know," I replied, feeling a mix of fear and determination, "but I can't back down now. There's too much at stake. This wasn't just about their cruel behavior toward me. It was about something far more serious. I had everything I needed to make a move, and it was time to act. The moment had come to take control of my life and ensure they faced the consequences of their actions. "Lilia," I said, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. "I'm going to expose them publicly," I declared. Lilia hesitated, fully aware of the risks involved. "Juniper, that's risky. You're playing with fire." But she added, "If anyone can do this, it's you." With Lilia's support and the evidence securely in my hands, I felt stronger than ever. I wasn't just fighting for my own justice. I was ensuring that Silas and his mother would be held accountable for everything they had done. It was time to bring the truth into the light. I decided to organize a grand event, disguising it as a significant announcement. Friends, family, and a few media contacts were invited. I needed people who would spread the story far and wide. Once the truth came out, there would be no turning back. The venue was lavish, buzzing with excitement and curiosity, everyone eager to hear the big news. As I stood at the front of the room, I took a deep breath, steadying my nerves. The moment of truth had arrived. "Thank you all for coming," I began, keeping my voice calm and composed. Silas and his mother stood beside me, their faces lit with pleasant smiles, completely unaware of what was about to unfold. They believed this event was part of their carefully crafted image, a celebration of their success. But they were about to learn the truth. The lies they had built their lives on were about to come crashing down. "Juniper, darling, we're so proud of you," Silas said, his voice sweet but hollow like syrup masking poison. He stood beside me with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Whatever this announcement is, we support you." His words dripped with insincerity, but I held myself together, taking a steady breath. This moment wasn't for him, it was for me. I turned to face the room, scanning the eager faces of friends, family, and media guests. "Thank you all for being here," I began, my voice steady. "I've gathered everyone here today to share some important truths about my marriage and the Brown family." Amber's smile faltered, her confidence slipping as uncertainty flickered in her eyes. "Truths," she repeated, her voice shaky with disbelief and fear. "Juniper, what do you mean?" I met her gaze without hesitation. "I mean the abuse, the lies, and the illegal activities that have been hidden beneath the surface." My voice grew stronger with each word, and a tense silence fell over the room as the crowd hung on my every syllable. Silas's face turned crimson, his barely contained rage bubbling just beneath the surface. "Juniper, have you lost your mind?" he hissed through clenched teeth, his fists tightening at his sides. "Quite the opposite, Silas," I replied with eerie calm. "I've never been more clear-headed, and I've never been more sure of what I need to do." With that, I gestured toward the large screen behind me. "Exhibit A," I announced. A video began to play, showcasing one of Silas's many abusive rants. His cruel, angry voice echoed throughout the room, and a wave of gasps rippled through the crowd. I watched as Ember's face drained of color, her hands trembling as she clutched the edge of the podium. "This is only the beginning," I continued, holding up a thick folder brimming with incriminating documents. "Here are financial records, evidence of fraud, embezzlement, and lies. Everything you see here proves what's really been going on." Silas stepped forward, panic flashing in his eyes. "You can't do this, Juniper," he shouted, his voice caught between anger and desperation. "You're ruining everything." I met his gaze without blinking. I'm not ruining anything, Silas. I'm exposing the truth that everyone here deserves to know. Cameras clicked furiously as reporters captured the unfolding drama, while Amber's composed facade shattered, her confidence crumbling under the weight of the revelations. Juniper, please, she whispered, her voice now desperate. Let's talk about this privately. There's no need for this public spectacle. I shook my head firmly. No, Amber, there will be no more private discussions. The time for hiding is over. As I continued to present the evidence, the reactions in the room varied. Some guests looked horrified, others whispered among themselves, and a few simply shook their heads in disbelief. Silas and Amber stood frozen, the masks of respectability they had worn for years now shattered, exposing the truth beneath. This is my story, I declared, addressing the room with unwavering resolve. A story of surviving abuse, standing against injustice, and reclaiming my life. I refused to be a victim any longer. The event ended in a flurry of activity, with reporters swarming around me, firing questions while friends and acquaintances approached to offer words of support. I had done it. I had exposed the truth, standing strong in the face of fear and humiliation. But I knew this was only the beginning. There was still one final battle ahead. The courtroom would be the next step, where everything would reach its conclusion. As I sat in that stark, imposing room, nerves and determination coursed through me. My lawyer sat beside me, confident and prepared to fight for justice. Across the courtroom, Silas and Amber appeared uneasy, their once confident expressions replaced by visible anxiety. The trial began, and my lawyer wasted no time. Your Honor, he began, his voice steady and authoritative. We are here today not only to seek a divorce but to bring to light years of emotional and financial abuse that my client, Juniper, has endured. From across the room, Silas leaned toward me, his eyes sharp and desperate. Juniper, you can't win this, he whispered, his voice low and venomous. You're taking things too far. I met his gaze with a calm but firm expression. This isn't about winning, Silas. It's about justice. It's about showing everyone who you really are. The trial pressed on as my lawyer presented the evidence with meticulous precision. He played recordings of Silas's cruel words, displayed financial records exposing fraudulent activities, and painted a vivid picture of the manipulation I had endured. Amber, visibly rattled, attempted to defend herself. Your Honor, this is all just a misunderstanding, she stammered, her voice weak and unconvincing. Juniper is exaggerating. This has been blown way out of proportion. I looked her in the eye, my voice steady and unwavering. Exaggerating? The evidence speaks for itself. You can't hide from the truth anymore. The judge reviewed everything carefully, taking time to analyze the documents, testimonies, and facts presented. Minutes stretched into what felt like an eternity. But I stayed composed, knowing the truth was finally being revealed. After a long pause, the judge made her ruling. In light of the overwhelming evidence, she announced, the court grants the divorce and orders legal action against both Silas and Amber for their conduct. The sound of the gavel striking the bench echoed through the room, marking the end of this painful chapter of my life. Relief and vindication washed over me like a wave. I had stood up to them, fought for justice, and emerged victorious. With the legal battles behind me, I knew it was time to start fresh. I found a small, peaceful home in the countryside, far from the chaos and pain of my past. The quiet surroundings and the beauty of nature provided the space I needed to heal. Sitting on the porch of my new home, a warm cup of tea in hand, I watched the sun dip below the horizon. The gentle rustling of leaves in the breeze and the distant chirping of birds filled the air. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt at peace. This was my new beginning, a life free from lies, manipulation, and abuse. My journey had been long and difficult, but it was worth every step. I hadn't just survived, I had triumphed. I had found my strength, reclaimed my voice, and now I was free. As the sun set, casting a golden glow across the sky, a small smile spread across my face. The future was uncertain, but it was mine to shape, a future filled with hope, healing, and happiness. This was my story of triumph, a story of a woman who refused to be silenced. I had faced every challenge head-on, stood tall against all odds, and now, finally, I was living a life of freedom and peace.